Yeah, so I think this is a tough one. This is a good one actually. So I would say
We might get some of this wrong, by the way. Please leave a comment letting us know how wrong we are.
from my own experience, now at some point I used to be pretty overweight, and I had like a hair issue where I had like a pretty big receding hairline. So for me, I always struggled with like, losing the weight to get down to a weight where I felt like I was comfortable and I was in pretty good shape. So I think from my experience when I was very overweight, I think less women were attracted to me then than they are now, obviously getting in better shape. And then when I was balding, it really hit my like self-confidence a lot because I was in like my younger 20s and I was starting to bald and kind of ran in my family. So that led me to like restoring my hair and getting hair transplants. So for me, like once I was able to restore my hairline and get more volume, I noticed more women were attracted to that. But I think there's a lot of turnoffs, physical turnoffs that women have.
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole list of them. Those are the two that I've personally dealt with.
Yeah. I never really conceived as my height as being a turnoff, but it actually is for some women. And I've like asked women at bars and stuff, and it really depends on the woman. Not every woman wants a 6'5" like guy. They're okay without that. Mm-hmm. But then like 1 out of 3 will be like, I must have a man that's at least 6 feet tall. So I wouldn't call it necessarily the worst unattractive feature of a guy is their height, but for some it is. For some women it's a deal breaker. Yeah. For some they don't care at all. It probably has to do with the way that you were raised, if they have like tall fathers or not. I don't know.
Tall brothers and tall parents.
Yeah. That's probably part of it. But interesting enough, my fiance, her dad's like 6 feet tall, her brother's 6 feet tall, and we match.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of variation. It gets into like, do you meet the looks threshold, which we talked about in the last episode? Mm-hmm. Then like, does your personality, like you said, like kind of break the surface and then they fall in love with you and all that? But on like a very shallow surfacey level, height is something that people almost immediately see next to like other features like skin tone and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I will say being shorter can be a disadvantage for guys, but it doesn't ultimately mean you're a virgin forever or you can never get married or something. Like you can work through it. So
yeah, 100%. I think if you're somebody who's shorter, like if you work on other aspects, like you got into really good shape, you have a good haircut, beard, you dress well, and you also have a great personality, so you're able to like make up for it, so to say.
Yeah, there's definitely like looks maxing and like looking for ways to find your niche. Like you can be still attractive with these. I think I saw somewhere in comments that like if you have like 3 of these things, you're fucked. Like if I was short, bald, fat, I would never meet my fiance, right?
That's like
Danny. But if I have one of
literally
Danny DeVito.
But he has a wife too.
But Danny DeVito's a Hollywood actor and he's funny as hell and he made it work. But like no offense to Danny, but his wife is just average. Like, let's be real, there's still limits.
She's mid.
Yeah.
But
most mid.
But he's doing better than anyone else with his features.
Yeah, if you're short, fat, and bald, you better be like a multi-millionaire, or you better be like super famous.
You gotta have that good social riz, bro.
Yeah.
That's very, you need to have, that's an absolute must. Some of it comes down to like, it's like you've got like obviously the biological factors, like, height, your body frame, your skin tone, your hair, your race. Like those are things that are a lot harder to change. But some of it's like, a lot of guys maybe like they're just unkempt, so that their beard grew out too long, or they let their hair grow out like really long as well. Like I have another buddy of mine he kind of has a hairstyle where it looks like he hasn't had a haircut in like 3 years, and when he actually gets a haircut, it makes him look 10 times better. So a lot of the time, like guys do get rejected on the superficial factors that we just covered. But a lot of times, like a guy can be a pretty decent looking person, but they get rejected because their facial hair is out of control, their hair is out of control, their style sucks. Like
I would say fashion is also an aspect. You don't have to be the most fashionable as a straight guy, but you still have to wear stuff that looks good on you. Like you still have to wear a shirt that fits. You don't want to be wearing, like you were mentioning, baggy jeans earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe the trends are changing, but at least right now you have to wear shirts that fit you well.
100%. Because
yeah.
you want obviously when your shirts like don't fit you, you just look like sloppy and unkempt. When you wear shirts that fit you well, like it complements your physique. Just makes you look like you're in better shape, and then it's also like wearing clothes that like match your skin tone. So if you have like more of a pale skin tone, like Rowland and I,
Yeah, I'm a ghost.
we typically wear like darker clothes, like your blacks, your browns, your reds, maroons, navy blue. But if Rylan and I were to be wearing like orange right now,
I can't wear orange. That's the one color I can't. Like yellow and orange. I can't do those.
We wouldn't be able to rock it.
No,
So.
I can't do those colors because I have like reddish hair and it's too much. It's too much.
It's too much
The
similarity
orange,
there.
yeah, the orange just doesn't look good.
One time I had this like massive Reese's peanut butter cup hoodie, and honestly it made me look like a gigantic pumpkin.
I'd love to see a picture of that.
Yeah, I kind of want to see this picture now.
Dude, I was also wearing this thing over at Hershey Park. This was years ago, but you could spot me, in a crowd so easily because it was like that orange. It was freaking hilarious.
You know what's funny? When you're younger, you get used to wearing, like, you get comfortable in these hoodies. So I used to have like a blue hoodie I would always wear.
Yeah.
I don't know why I found it like to be a good look, but I just always wore it,
I used to have, that's funny you mentioned that. I used to have this like Mickey Mouse hoodie that was like a 2XL and that had like these like really baggy like gangster type hoodies, and I saw that one. It was my first like hoodie that I picked up. It was like this Mickey Mouse hoodie that like went down to my knees. And I went to school the next day. My buddy, he's like half Cuban, half Puerto Rican. He just starts busting out laughing. He's like, "Yo, fucking Mickey Mouse is here. What the fuck are you wearing?"
In clown.
He was just clowning me. And I was like, so if that happens to you, you can't pull that off. He probably could pull it off. He had to look for it, but I couldn't. So it also comes into play.
So I one time went on this date. This was years ago, but in fact, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast. But I tried. I asked her out over. It was like a countryside restaurant, very nice place to go, and it was a relatively long drive for her too. So the fact that she drove that 40 minutes said something that she was kind of interested in the date. She gets there. She has this amazing blue dress on with a red scarf. So she put some effort into it. And oddly enough, you were talking about that Mickey Mouse hoodie. I was wearing a Mickey Mouse hoodie that same day. It was like so baggy on me.
Yeah.
It was like blue. It was ugly. And I had like the baggiest pants on. And dude, she called me out during the date. She's
What
like,
did she say?
I put in some effort into my outfit here, and here you show up on this date in like a baggy ass hoodie and pants as well. And I'm like, okay, stuff like that's gonna happen. And honestly, I'm thankful I had the experience because now I know not to do that and maybe take my looks a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
I kind of want to turn a little bit to like what women don't like about men's personalities a little bit.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like this is kind of like a controversial personality trait that goes
Andrew Tate.
Yeah, I was gonna go like, what do you think women think about like guys with big egos and like the Andrew Tate? Well, not necessarily like that extreme, but like guys like the dudes that were good at sports, so they think they're hot shit. Sometimes it seems to work for those dudes. Like they seem to do fine in high school and college and wherever they go in life. But then, like, I feel like for some women, it just doesn't work for them, and they cannot stand that personality trait. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I found that like guys who have like super massive egos, they're kind of polarizing to women. So like for a certain type of woman, typically they might be able to attract like a woman that's maybe like a little bit younger, early to mid 20s. That kind of like brash kind of personality tends to do better with those types of women, and I think that type of personality can kind of maybe do worse with like women in their late 20s 30s.
Oh,
It kind
okay.
of polarizes them because some women they like that kind of like macho attitude, like that attracts them, that turns them on. There's other women that like a guy who's more like laid back, down to earth, doesn't have so much of a big ego. So I think that comes into play. But I think in the short term, like if that guy is going out to a bar to meet women, that kind of like outgoing, masculine, like macho personality, like that guy is probably gonna approach more women that night and be a lot more confident and direct. Maybe, you know, cocky, whatever. But he's gonna be able to get a lot more short term relationships than I think a guy who's a little more humble, maybe wouldn't approach as many women in a bar or club scenario. Because if you're like a macho, like outgoing, aggressive guy, it actually works well for you in the bar scene, like
Why do you
in
think?
nightlife.
Why do you think that though? I mean, I agree, but why do you think that is?
I think in a bar or club, it's very loud. So I think a lot of guys from the get go, they get nervous and they'll be like, the music's so loud. They're thinking in their head, well, I'm afraid to approach her and get rejected. Even she might not be able to hear me. Whereas the guy who has like a big ego in his head, he's thinking like, all right, well, which one of these girls am I gonna go home with tonight? And it leads him to maybe walk up to 5 girls and introduce himself and like show them like, hey, like I thought you were attractive, I wanted to come over and say hi. And the fact that he, you know, maybe the first couple girls shot him down, but that fourth or fifth girl, you know, liked that he was confident enough to like walk up to them, as long as he meets the looks threshold. But just having more of an aggressive type personality, it's going to lead him to, you know, take more risks. And like, you know, he's going to find a woman that night that's going to find him attractive enough.
So what I heard you say, like I guess if you could call it a virtue of being someone with a big ego in the bar scene, is that you're willing to take more risks.
Yeah,
basically.
it's a lot about risk taking. Whereas a guy that's more, a little more humble, down to earth, he might play it safe. He might get some, you know, drink some beers with his buddies. He might strike up a conversation with one girl, maybe two. But the guy who's more aggressive, he's going to take more risks, and he might walk up to 7 or 8 women, and one of those women is going to eventually find him attractive enough.
So, but if you could harness both, if you could like not be a tool, but at the same time you could also take risks and like just deal with the rejection if it comes your way, but then also maybe one time get lucky. Do you think that's a good combination, a good trait for a man to be like risk taking, but also like humble at the same time?
A good guy at the same time.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I think that would be better. Like if you're
Yeah.
like a naturally a good guy, and you're also, you know, you can take the risk of walking up and introducing yourself to a girl you find attractive. I think that's ideal, and I think a lot of women will find that just as attractive, and more
Interesting.
women will find it as more attractive because you're coming up, you're just like, you seem down to earth, you know how to conversate, you don't come off as like this douchey like macho guy.
Yeah.
So I think that is the best case scenario for you to do that.